Hey my friends, we are making a few different types of match holders. So I keep seeing the cutest match holders, like the little matches, all over my Instagram feed, all over the place, like at little stores. So I'm gonna get a whole bunch of cute little matches for when I sell these so they can go in with them because how stinking cute. This one I did a little donut, so it's actually gonna be carvable. So I'm gonna carve this little thing and then we're gonna leave this raw clay. So I'm gonna show you guys how to make that one. And then I just did 3 different little styles. So this one has a little bump, put the matches here and then you strike. I just thought that one was cute. And then this is your more traditional style match holder where it's just the little holder and the raw little clay, like glaze. It's going to be raw clay on here once it's all done. But I hope you guys enjoy this video.
All right, my friends, let's get started. And you can really use however much clay. It really depends on if you're trying to make these really big. I was going with more of the like short matches that you see in all the stores right now. It's very like a common thing to have. So I am doing these more probably, I don't know, 3 inches wide, 4 inches wide. I didn't really measure and I'm just kind of eyeballing it. I just cut off some wads of clay and I said, this looks good. So we're going to start by centering this. And as you guys can see, I'm not going to go into centering this video. I will link it above so you guys get a little breakdown, but I am keeping my elbows down and holding that sponge. I like to center with a sponge. You guys can do whatever you want to do, but I find it so much easier. And then I'm going to push this down once we're fully centered into my little karate chop here. And the trick when we're opening these is that we're actually going to open them in 2 different spaces because we're creating a bowl in the middle. We're going to open it, but not very much. Like I would say, I don't know, like it's bigger than a quarter, but it's like a $half size. These are little itty bitty guys, so it's not like huge. And we're going to compress that because there's going to be a lot of points that can crack here because we're making lots of little different divots. So I'm compressing this first little point, and then I'm going to go and I'm going to split my rim here. Ready? With my sponge, I'm pushing that rim down, and I'm creating my own little bowl in the middle. These are very similar to my last video when I was making the apple, the little apple bakers, but instead of closing it up and making it so you have that little apple baker in the center, the little pointy thing, instead of making that pointy thing, we're just going to keep it open because we want to be able to put the little matches in this middle part. So we're going to be doing our poles to bring that up, but we're not closing this off. It's like a little mini espresso cup in this middle part, okay? We don't want it to be closed up, but we want enough to be able to put stuff in it. So now we're creating our little match striker area, which really is just one simple pole. And I like to kind of like flail this out a little bit more, give it a little bit more shape. But that's really it. These are so insanely easy. So I'm gonna show you 3 of them because I'm making 3 different styles of them. But they're really like the simplest, fastest, and like cutest little things. If you guys are looking for something really easy, it's very beginner friendly. And honestly, they're fun. I ended up making this too tall, so I'm going to take my wooden needle tool and just cut that baby off. These don't need to be that big. So I thought I had like perfect amount of clay. Really, I used too much clay. But instead of taking the weight there, I could have, when I was throwing this, when I split that rim, I could have put more clay into the rim. So I could have bowled that out a little bit better. But honestly, these don't take too much. We don't need that much because we're just creating a little cup inside of a little bowl, and that's it. So I'm just kind of smoothing this out. I'm using that red rib to give it a little bit more of a clean shape, and I'm making sure there's no sharp edges. So I'm just taking my sponge and just making sure there's no water in there. It's a tiny little space, so just be careful with your sponge. But that is it. So let's do the next one. Also, you guys, what inspired me to do this was I saw the cutest Native American and cowboy little match pack. And if you guys have seen any of my other work, I'm really big on the cowboys and Native American stuff. I have been with a Native American man for We're going on 15 years now, and we have little Native American babies, and my family is very Montanan and very much cowboys. So I like to incorporate that into my work a lot. So when I'm making mugs, I like to do a lot of cowboy mugs, and I like to do a lot of feathers and just really like that traditional Montana style Native American. And it's not Native American pottery, but I like to add that like cowboy and native stuff to my work when I'm designing stuff, because I think it's fun and it puts a little bit of me back into my pieces. And I think that's a really big deal when you are a potter. So it's just kind of fun. But we're going to do this one again, and I'm going to create 3 of them, but I'm going to make them all a little bit different. So for this one, we're creating our little hockey puck here. I always tell my students, wipe your hands, because your hands will always be dirty, but you do want them clean. And I know it's kind of a weird catch-22, but if you have too much clay all over your hands, it's going to be really hard for you to work with pottery. So we are compressing here after opening, and you guys can see it's very small open. I'm on a square bat, so we're not going too big no matter what. This go around, I'm using my pinky and to really get like that little bit of that divot here. I knew that the last one that I made was, I used too much clay at this point, so I'm trying to make sure that that doesn't happen again. So now I am pulling that inside and starting with that piece, regrouping my rim. When I do these, my pulls stay the same as like when I'm making a mug. We always are making sure that our hands are touching. We're going to compress this outside, and I'm going to go in and compress this base over here. So then I can start making that bowl. And it's such a tiny, tiny, tiny amount of clay that we're really just doing one little baby pull, and that's it. And then I'm going to pull the inside. I'm also going to be collaring this in as I go. So you can see my fingers. I'm collaring it in as I'm working. I really want to make sure that it stays like in. I don't want it to flare out. So my hands are touching. I always start at the bottom of the pot, and my inside hand is in there, but it's not really pushing. It's just making sure I don't push through my walls. So we're pulling all the way up very slowly. And for this one, I'm going to add little rings. So now I'm just kind of shaping. I'm using my fingers to shape little divots because I wanted all of these to look a little bit different, because they're just for fun. So you can have them in your house next to a little candle, and there really is something aesthetically pleasing about walking into your house, and when you go to light a candle, you have this beautiful piece of artwork that has all these unique matches inside of it, and you strike the match with the art to light your beautiful candle. I don't know. It's just so, just like a simplicity, like beauty in having small little things like that around your house. I absolutely crave stuff like that. When I find it, I go bananas. So I get really excited about it, and I like to have little things. I'm not a hoarder in any means. My house, if you ask anybody, it looks empty a lot of times, but I really like things with a purpose and that are beautiful. So if it has a purpose and it's beautiful, I go crazy for it. So this one's going to be a little bit different. And I'm watching the time here. If you guys keep seeing me looking up, I like to time myself whenever I'm making pots, especially when I'm making something new, so I can generally see if somebody ordered, say, 50 of these from me, I can time myself and be like, okay, I can make all of these in 5 minutes. So I know exactly how much my like price point can be to, and how long it's going to take me to make them, and all of that. So I like to watch the clock as I go. This one, I think I made into a bowl. I'm speaking from the future here. So or not a bowl, but a round, empty, hollow rim. And I know at the beginning when I talked about this one, I actually said that I was going to carve it. I ran out of time. These dried up too fast, and I could not carve them. I could just trim them. So it didn't get carved all beautifully, but I'll show you what they look like when it's all done. So I'm collaring this in and keeping this middle part pretty small. I'm not trying to be crazy with this. This is a very simple beauty in the pottery world. I actually really think these are just absolutely gorgeous. Whether you smoke, whether you're lighting a candle, there's something beautiful about this. So I'm compressing and compressing right here, pretty heavy, and then I'm gonna push my thumb at the very bottom and wrapping my sponge around that rim. And I'm really trying to collect most of that here, so I'm really pulling that up. And this is where I create that little bubble. So we're going to pull as much as I can. You guys, this is tiny. It's like the teeniest tiny amount. Making sure I have no water in that middle part. So I'm really making sure I'm using that sponge. And I'm going to do another pull here. And as I'm pulling, I'm bringing it in. Do you see that little curve? It's such a little movement, and I'm sticking my sponge back in there to make sure it doesn't move and that I get all of the water out. We don't want any extra water in here. So really make sure that you're getting all of the water out because you don't want any water trapped in this little circle here. So I'm using my ring finger to make this bowl, and I'm really pulling it up and in, creating that weird little bowl thing. And then I'm going to use my sponge and I'm going to close this up. So we're going to just slowly do like a pull with your sponge to create a bowl. And we want it to attach here. So as you're squishing it down, you are actually attaching it to the other side of the clay. And that will create a teeny tiny little bit of a round space here. I'm going to go in with a wooden knife just so I can make sure that it is actually sealed and it's not going to come unsealed later on. I want to make sure that there is no tiny little spaces, but it stays round. So I'm just going to use that to really make sure that everything looks nice. And really, that's about it. You can touch this up and just kind of play with it a little bit more because that's really all I'm doing here is I'm really making sure that everything is good. It looks the way that I want it to look. It's got a good pull. I really just kind of was eyeballing this guy. You guys, pottery is such an awkward thing because the way that I'm like bent over. Also, whoever told me these jeans were cute at the beginning of this video, we're going to have a problem because after doing the voiceover of this, I'm throwing those away because I look like a Oompa Loompa and that horrified me. So those are never going to be seen in a video ever again. So if this goes viral, I will cry, but it's fine. It's all good. So I'm just kind of cleaning up the donut here, really making sure there is no sharp pieces and we are fully closed. And with that being said, I am going to trim these guys and I'm going to show you guys what they look like once they're fired in glaze. Remember when you're glazing these, we want to make sure that we don't glaze the place that we want to like strike. You want to leave that all raw and you do not want it to be like, you don't want to take your sandpaper to it and sand it up and get it all smooth. We want to leave it all rough. The only part of these that I sanded once I was done was the actual bottom because we don't want it to scratch counters either. So here's what these guys all look like. We'll turn this off and I'll show you guys up close and personal. You can really see that little bowl on that left side and then the regular size ones and then my little wiggly one, which is actually my favorite. And here is the last little bits. So you can really see where I left it raw and where I glazed, where we can put the matches in there. And I just think they turned out so sneaking cute. So this is the first one to come out of the kiln. So I wanted to show it off. I don't have the other ones right now, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video and be sure to subscribe because subscribing is free and it helps us grow as a YouTube channel so we can show you guys how to make cool stuff. All right, bye.